In the oppressive heat of a late summer evening on August 22, 2022, a candlelit dining room in a modest suburban home in Round Rock, Texas, glowed with a deceptive warmth that masked the horror brewing beneath its surface. The table was a vision of care, crisp white linens draped over polished wood, silverware gleaming in the flicker of tall candles, and wine glasses catching the soft light like prisms. A rich, savory aroma wafted from plates laden with meticulously prepared dishes, roast glistening with herbs, a stew thick with spices, fried morsels golden and crisp, promising a meal crafted with love, the kind that could rekindle a fading spark between a husband and wife. Soft jazz drifted from a Bluetooth speaker, its melancholic notes wrapping the scene in an illusion of romance. But beneath this carefully curated tableau, a secret festered, so horrifying, so utterly unthinkable, that its revelation would shatter a family, scar a community, and leave a nation grappling with the depths to which a human mind can descend. This is the story of Tiana and Jerome Holloway, a couple whose love, once a beacon of hope in a world of ordinary struggles, twisted into a nightmare of jealousy, obsession, and an act so monstrous it defies comprehension, a betrayal that began with a mother's longing for a child and ended with a meal no human should ever consume. Welcome to The Killer Next Door, where we uncover the darkest true crime stories that reveal the monsters hiding in plain sight. This case is one of the most chilling you'll ever hear, and it only gets more disturbing from here. If you're ready to dive into the twisted depths of human nature, hit that subscribe button right now and tap the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Like this video if the story's already got you hooked, and drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? New York, London, Sydney, or somewhere totally unexpected? Share this video to join our global true crime community. Your comment might inspire our next deep dive. Let's go back to the beginning, to a time when Tiana and Jerome were just two young lovers with dreams bigger than their Alabama roots. Now let's dive back. The Holloways were the embodiment of a young couple's dreams, their story rooted in the kind of earnest, hard-won love that inspired admiration from those around them. Jerome, 31, was a steady, hard-working man born in Mobile, Alabama, to a single mother who raised him and his two siblings on a cashier's wages, instilling a fierce work ethic and a quiet resilience. With deep brown eyes and a calm demeanor, Jerome had always been the dependable one, helping his mother pay bills as a teenager, working construction jobs to fund his education at Alabama State University, where he earned a degree in mechanical engineering. His $85,000 salary at a Birmingham firm, designing HVAC systems for office buildings, was a source of pride for a man who'd grown up on food stamps, his modest success a testament to grit and determination. Tiana, 29, was his vibrant counterpart, a woman whose passion and ambition lit up any room she entered. Born in Montgomery to a Baptist preacher and a school librarian, Tiana's childhood was steeped in faith and community, her father's sermons filling her with a sense of purpose, her mother's love of literature sparking her creativity. She was a dreamer, her eyes always fixed on a horizon beyond Alabama's small-town limits. At Alabama State, where she studied marketing, Tiana's charisma made her a campus star, organizing charity drives, leading the debate team, and crafting social media campaigns that caught the eye of local businesses. Her laughter was infectious, her determination fierce, and when she met Jerome in a sociology class in 2013, their connection was immediate. Late-night study sessions turned into coffee dates, then long drives under Alabama's starry skies, their hands intertwined as they shared dreams of a life bigger than their roots. They were the couple you rooted for, recalled Latasha Evans, a childhood friend who stood at their wedding, her voice warm with nostalgia. Jerome was Tiana's rock, always patient, always there. She was this fireball, dreaming of babies, a big house, a life full of love. You saw them together and thought, they're gonna make it. Their wedding in 2016 was a joyful affair at Tiana's father's church, a modest sanctuary packed with family and friends, followed by a reception where barbecue smoke mingled with gospel music and laughter. They settled into a cozy Birmingham apartment, its walls adorned with thrift store art and Tiana's vision boards, collages of dream homes, travel destinations, and baby names. Jerome worked long hours, saving for a future house, while Tiana thrived as a social media coordinator for a local boutique, her knack for viral Instagram posts earning her a small but loyal following of 8,000. Their life wasn't lavish. Takeout pizza on Fridays, weekend hikes in Oak Mountain State Park. But it was filled with love, their evenings spent planning a family, their hands clasped as they whispered about the children they'd raise. Tiana's deepest desire was motherhood, a longing rooted in her own nurturing upbringing. She'd linger in baby aisles at Target, her fingers tracing tiny onesies, her eyes sparkling as she described the nursery she'd design: soft blues, stuffed animals, a rocking chair for late-night feedings. Jerome adored her passion, her certainty, and vowed to give her everything she wanted. By 2020, they were ready to try for a baby, their excitement palpable despite the challenges of negative tests and months of waiting. Each disappointment was a blow, but Tiana's resilience shone through. She'd squeeze Jerome's hand, smile through tears, and say, "Our time's coming, baby." When she finally announced her pregnancy in February 2021, their joy was uncontainable. They lay awake at night, Jerome's hands resting on her growing belly, dreaming aloud about names: Nyla for a girl, after Tiana's grandmother, and a nursery painted in soft pastels. Their love, always strong, felt unbreakable, a bond forged in shared dreams and unwavering commitment. The move to Texas in mid-2021 changed everything. Jerome was offered a senior engineering role at a tech manufacturing firm in Round Rock, a suburb north of Austin, with a $120,000 salary and a relocation package that promised a better life, better schools, a bigger home, a fresh start in a booming city where startups and families thrived. Tiana was hesitant, reluctant to leave her family, her church, and the community that anchored her. Montgomery was where her father preached, where her mother hosted book clubs, where neighbors knew her name. But Jerome's assurances won her over. "This is for us, for our baby. We're building something real." They settled into a 3-bedroom ranch-style home on Cedar Ridge Drive, its brick facade and neatly trimmed lawn blending into a neighborhood of young professionals, where barbecues and kids' bikes were a common sight. The house was their pride, a sunny kitchen where Tiana experimented with recipes from her mother's cookbook, a backyard where Jerome planned a swing set, and a nursery they decorated with care, its walls adorned with hand-painted stars and a crib draped in soft muslin. When Nyla was born on October 12, 2021, just weeks after the move, their world seemed complete. Jerome was besotted, cradling his daughter for hours, marveling at her tiny fingers, her sleepy smiles, her soft coos that melted his heart. He'd rock her at night, whispering promises of a life filled with love, his deep voice soothing her to sleep. Tiana, radiant through her pregnancy, embraced motherhood with a fervor that matched her dreams, breastfeeding with care, documenting Nyla's milestones in a leather-bound journal, singing lullabies in a voice soft as moonlight. She posted glowing updates on Instagram, Nyla in a tiny sundress, Jerome kissing her forehead, her 10,000 followers leaving heart emojis and comments like "perfect family." But beneath the curated perfection, something was shifting, a darkness creeping into the edges of Tiana's mind, unnoticed by those who saw only her radiant facade. As weeks turned to months, Tiana's light began to dim. The excitement that once defined her gave way to a quiet unease, a shadow that settled over her like a fog. She grew anxious, withdrawn, her eyes losing their spark. Jerome noticed subtle changes. Her laughter was rarer, her responses clipped, her gaze distant as she watched him with Nyla. He attributed it to the exhaustion of new motherhood, the stress of their move, perhaps the postpartum blues he'd read about in parenting books. But there were signs, faint at first, that something deeper was wrong. Tiana would sit on the edge of their bed, staring as Jerome rocked Nyla, her expression unreadable, her silence heavy with an emotion he couldn't name. She'd linger in the nursery, motionless, gazing at the crib as if it held a puzzle she couldn't solve. When Nyla cried, Tiana would flinch, not with concern but with a flicker of irritation, as if the sound pierced her soul. The comments began subtly, laced with a bitterness that caught Jerome off guard. "You love her more than me," she'd murmur one night, her voice flat, her eyes fixed on him as he cradled Nyla in their living room, the TV humming softly in the background. Jerome laughed it off, pulling her close, kissing her temple. "You're my girls, both of you," he said, his warmth genuine but oblivious to the storm brewing within her. The remarks grew sharper, more insistent. "I carried her for 9 months," Tiana said one evening in December, her tone cutting as they sat at the kitchen table. Nyla asleep in her bassinet. "I almost died pushing her into this world." Jerome, confused, reached for her hand. "You're amazing. Baby. I know what you did for her." But her words lingered, heavy with resentment. "You don't look at me the way you look at her," she whispered another night, her voice trembling with accusation as Jerome tucked Nyla into her crib. "You used to hold me like that, kiss me like that." Jerome, exasperated, tried to reason. "She's a baby, Tiana. She needs me." Her response was chilling, "And I don't." The silence that followed was worse than the words. Tiana stopped voicing her feelings, but her behavior grew stranger, more unsettling. She moved through their home like a ghost, her once vibrant energy replaced by a hollow detachment. She'd stand in the kitchen, whispering to herself. Words Jerome couldn't catch, phrases about being replaced or unseen. She'd watch him constantly, her eyes tracking his every move as he changed Nyla's diapers or sang her lullabies, as if waiting for a betrayal. The house, once filled with laughter and plans, felt suffocating, its walls closing in with unspoken tension. Jerome, ever patient, chalked it up to adjustment, believing time would heal her. He suggested therapy, but Tiana bristled, her pride wounded. "You think I'm broken?" He didn't press, fearing he'd push her further away. He had no idea her mind was unraveling, twisting love into obsession, motherhood into a battlefield where she felt she'd already lost. Tiana's descent was not a single moment but a slow, insidious unraveling, a series of fractured thoughts that stitched themselves into a monstrous tapestry. It began in the quiet moments when she felt invisible, washing bottles at 3 a.m., her reflection in the kitchen window a stranger's face, or lying awake as Jerome slept, his arm no longer around her but reaching for Nyla's bassinet. The love she'd felt for her daughter, once fierce and all-consuming, warped into resentment, a jealousy so intense it blurred the line between reality and delusion. In her mind, Nyla had stolen Jerome's affection, relegating Tiana to a secondary role in her own marriage. The thought first came as she chopped onions for dinner, the knife's rhythm soothing. Hypnotic, what if I just... She'd shake it off, blame exhaustion, tell herself it was a fleeting thought. But it returned, persistent, seductive, whispering in the dead of night, wrapping around her like a shadow she could no longer resist. By July 2022, the thought had taken root, a dark conviction that Nyla was the barrier between her and Jerome's love. His adoration for their daughter, his gentle songs, his tender kisses, his hours spent rocking her, felt like theft, stripping Tiana of the attention she craved. She began to see Nyla not as her child but as a rival, a force that had upended her world. Her journal, later found by police, revealed the depth of her torment. "He looks at her like she's everything. I'm nothing now. I gave him everything, and she took it. The entries grew erratic, scrawled in jagged handwriting. I need him back. I need to be seen. Tiana, once a woman of warmth and dreams, was slipping into a psychological abyss, her love for Jerome twisting into an obsession to reclaim him at any cost. The cultural pressures of their new life in Round Rock compounded her struggle. In their Alabama community, rooted in church and family, Tiana had been a pillar, organizing potlucks, singing in the choir, her role as a preacher's daughter a badge of pride. But Round Rock was different, a transient suburb of tech workers and young families, where neighbors kept to themselves, and status was measured in new cars and Instagram aesthetics. Tiana, now a stay-at-home mother, felt isolated, her identity reduced to diaper changes and sleepless nights. The expectation to be a perfect mom, radiant, selfless, always smiling, clashed with her growing sense of inadequacy. Social media amplified her pain. Scrolling through posts of other mothers with pristine nurseries and doting husbands, she felt like a failure, her 12,000 followers unaware of the darkness behind her curated posts. Texas's conservative culture, with its emphasis on family and strength, stigmatized mental health struggles, particularly for Black women like Tiana, who were expected to endure silently. Seeking help felt like admitting defeat, a betrayal of the resilience her parents had preached. The plan formed in fragments, a slow descent into madness that Tiana herself could not fully comprehend. It wasn't a single decision but a series of thoughts, each darker than the last, coalescing into a horrifying resolve. By August, she had stopped resisting the voices in her head, not auditory hallucinations, but a relentless inner dialogue that convinced her Nyla's existence was the root of her pain. If Nyla was gone, she reasoned, Jerome would see her again, love her again, restore her to the center of his world. The idea was monstrous, but to Tiana, it felt like salvation, a way to reclaim the life she'd lost. She began to prepare, her actions methodical yet detached, as if guided by a force beyond her control. On the morning of August 22, 2022, Tiana moved with an eerie calm that belied the chaos within her. Jerome kissed her cheek before leaving for work, a routine gesture that carried the weight of their fading connection. She stood frozen, her hand pressed to her cheek, feeling the ghost of his touch, a reminder of the man who'd once looked at her with adoration. Then she turned to the nursery, where Nyla slept, her tiny chest rising and falling under a soft blanket. Tiana bathed her gently, humming a lullaby her mother had sung, her movements mechanical, almost ritualistic. She wrapped Nyla in a soft yellow blanket, rocked her one last time, and whispered, "Mommy's going to make everything okay." There were no tears, no hesitation, only a chilling resolve born of a mind fractured by jealousy and despair. What followed was an act so unthinkable it defies description, a violation of every instinct of motherhood. Tiana prepared a meal with meticulous care, the kitchen filling with rich, savory scents, roast seasoned with rosemary, a stew simmered with garlic, fried morsels crisp and golden, all arranged like an offering for a sacred ritual. She changed into a flowing red dress, one Jerome had loved in their dating days, and set the table with candles, wine, and soft jazz, crafting a scene of false romance that masked the horror beneath. When Jerome returned home at 6:45 p.m., exhausted from a 10-hour shift calibrating machinery, the sight stopped him cold. The dining room glowed with candlelight, the table a masterpiece of care, Tiana standing in the doorway, her smile soft but unsettling, her eyes gleaming with an unreadable intensity. "What's all this?" he asked, a grin breaking through his fatigue, his tie loosened, his work boots still dusted with factory grit. "A special dinner," she replied, gliding toward him, her arms wrapping around his neck in a way that felt both familiar and foreign, her perfume, jasmine and vanilla, stirring memories of their early days. He let himself relax, believing, for a moment, That his wife was back, the Tiana he'd fallen in love with. They sat, and he took the first bite, rich, perfectly seasoned, a flavor unlike anything she'd cooked before. Damn, babe. This is incredible, he said, laughing, his fork diving in for more. What is this? Tiana giggled, a sound that sent a shiver down his spine, though he couldn't place why. I made it just for you, she said, her hand reaching across the table to stroke his fingers, her touch lingering as they talked, about work, about the weather, about nothing at all. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't distant, wasn't cold, and Jerome let himself hope. But something was off, a subtle discord beneath the warmth. Her smile had an edge, sharp and unnatural, her eyes blinking slowly, deliberately, as if savoring a secret only she knew. The food, delicious yet heavy, sat strangely in his stomach, its richness tinged with an unfamiliar texture. A chill crept in as he realized the house was too quiet, no soft gurgles, no cries from the nursery. Where's Nyla? He asked, his voice tightening, his fork pausing midair. Tiana's smile widened, her fingers tightening on his, her nails digging slightly into his skin. You like the food? She asked, her tone deflecting, almost playful. Tiana, where's Nyla? He pressed, dread rising like bile, his heart pounding in his chest. She leaned forward, her face inches from his, her voice dropping to a whisper, almost loving, she's in your mouth. The world stopped. Jerome's fork clattered to the plate, the sound echoing in the silent room. His heart hammering. Phone, dialing 911 with fingers that felt numb. My baby's gone, he sobbed to the operator, his voice fractured, barely coherent. She's in the food. Tiana did this. Please help me. The operator, stunned, dispatched officers immediately, her voice tight with urgency. Stay on the line, sir. Help is coming. Minutes later, police stormed the Cedar Ridge home, their flashlights cutting through the dim glow of the candles. The scene was a grotesque parody of a romantic evening, the dining table laden with plates of meticulously prepared food, the air thick with the savory aroma now laced with a sickening undertone. Officer Maria Williams, a 10-year veteran, approached the table, her breath catching as she identified unmistakable traces of human flesh among the dishes, carefully sliced, seasoned, and cooked with a precision that spoke of chilling intent. We need forensics now, she radioed, her voice trembling, her stomach churning as she stepped back, her training no match for the horror before her. Detective James Harris knelt beside Jerome, who was incoherent, retching on the floor, his eyes hollow with grief, his hands clutching his stomach as if he could expel the betrayal. Tiana stood in the corner, her red dress flowing like a specter, her expression serene, almost proud. I made a meal for my husband, she said sweetly when questioned, her calm sending a shiver through the officers. Is there something wrong with that? The arrest was swift, the evidence undeniable. Forensic analysis confirmed the unthinkable. Nyla's remains were incorporated into the meal, prepared with a meticulousness that suggested a mind both fractured and deliberate. Tiana showed no resistance as she was handcuffed and led away, her demeanor unshaken, her eyes fixed on Jerome as if expecting gratitude. The nursery, searched by police, revealed a scene of quiet devastation, Nyla's crib empty, her yellow blanket stained with blood, a kitchen knife discarded nearby. Jerome, curled on the living room floor, was inconsolable, his sobs echoing through the house as paramedics tried to stabilize him.
What do you think happened?
Neighbors, awakened by sirens,
I heard shouting
gathered on their
earlier.
lawns, whispering in disbelief as the reality of the tragedy spread. The Cedar Ridge home, once a symbol of the Holloway's dreams, became a grim landmark, its cheerful brick facade forever tainted by the horror within. The investigation peeled back layers of warning signs that had gone unheeded. Tiana's journal, found in her nightstand, chronicled her descent, pages of neat handwriting giving way to frantic scrawls. He doesn't see me anymore. She's taken him. I need to fix this. Medical records revealed a history of anxiety and depression, noted by her obstetrician during pregnancy, but no formal diagnosis of postpartum psychosis, a condition affecting 1 to 2 in 1,000 new mothers, characterized by delusions, paranoia, and a break from reality. Tiana's family, interviewed by police, described her as changed after Nyla's birth, withdrawn, irritable, prone to muttering about being replaced. Her mother, Evelyn, tearfully recounted Tiana's confessions of feeling invisible, but the family, steeped in a Baptist tradition that viewed mental health struggles as a test of faith, urged prayer over therapy. Texas's mental health system, strained by underfunding, ranking 49th in per capita spending, offered little support. Tiana's prenatal care included no postpartum mental health screening, a gap that experts later cited as a critical failure. The cultural context of Round Rock amplified Tiana's isolation. Unlike their Alabama community, where church potlucks and family gatherings provided a safety net, Round Rock was a transient suburb, its residents focused on careers and upward mobility. Tiana, now a stay-at-home mother, felt adrift, her identity swallowed by diaper changes and sleepless nights. The pressure to embody the perfect mom, radiant, selfless, always in control, was relentless, fueled by social media's curated images of motherhood. Tiana's Instagram, with its 12,000 followers, projected a flawless life, Nyla in frilly dresses, Jerome smiling at her side, but hid her growing despair. In their predominantly Black and Latino neighborhood, mental health stigma ran deep. Seeking therapy was seen as weakness, especially for women expected to hold it together for their families. Tiana's pride, shaped by her preacher father's emphasis on resilience, kept her silent, her pain festering in isolation. The trial, beginning in February 2023, was a national spectacle, drawing crowds to the Williamson County Courthouse and dominating headlines across the country. Prosecutors argued for first-degree murder, painting Tiana as a calculating monster driven by jealousy, her actions premeditated and deliberate. They cited the meticulous preparation of the meal, the absence of remorse, and her journal entries as evidence of intent. "I'll make him love me again, even if it kills me." Forensic experts testified to the precision of the act, the careful seasoning and cooking a chilling contrast to its horror. The defense countered with postpartum psychosis, calling psychiatrists who described Tiana's symptoms, paranoia, detachment, obsessive thoughts, as textbook signs of a severe mental health crisis triggered by childbirth. They highlighted her history of anxiety, the lack of postpartum screening, and the cultural barriers that prevented intervention, framing her as a victim of a broken system. Jerome's testimony was the trial's emotional core, his voice breaking as he recounted his love for Nyla, his joy at fatherhood, and his obliviousness to Tiana's descent. "I thought she was just tired," he sobbed, his hands trembling, as he clutched a photo of Nyla, her tiny face smiling from a hospital blanket. "I never saw this coming. She was my everything, and she took my baby." He described the dinner, the moment Tiana's words, "she's in your mouth," shattered his world, the nausea and grief that consumed him as he realized what he'd eaten. Tiana sat impassive, her eyes cold, offering no remorse, her medicated calm a stark contrast to the vibrant woman he married. Her silence in court, broken only by a whispered apology during sentencing, left jurors grappling with the question, was she a monster or a mother lost to madness? The jury deliberated for 4 days, torn between the prosecution's evidence of intent and the defense's compelling case for mental illness. Postpartum psychosis, though rare, was well documented, with studies showing up to 4% of cases leading to infanticide if untreated. Yet the act's brutality, cooking and serving Nyla's remains, challenged the jurors' empathy. On March 15, 2023, Tiana Holloway was found guilty of first-degree murder, sentenced to life without parole. The judge's words were heavy. Your actions have violated the most sacred bonds of humanity, leaving a wound that will never heal. Jerome wept, relief mingling with unending grief, knowing justice could never restore his daughter. Tiana, led away in shackles, showed no emotion, her face a mask as she disappeared into the system. The aftermath left scars that rippled through Round Rock and beyond. Jerome moved back to Alabama, unable to face the house where his world collapsed. He sold the Cedar Ridge home, its cheerful facade now a grim landmark, whispered about by neighbors as the murder house. He sought therapy, but the trauma lingered, every meal a trigger, the sound of sizzling food evoking nausea, the memory of Tiana's whisper haunting his dreams. He became an advocate for postpartum mental health, speaking at churches and community centers about warning signs, rapid mood changes, withdrawal, obsessive thoughts, urging families to seek help without shame. I lost my daughter because we didn't see, he told the local news outlet, his voice steady but hollow. Don't let pride or stigma stop you. Get help. The community grappled with its own reckoning. Neighbors, once friendly but distant, formed support groups, discussing mental health openly for the first time. The tragedy sparked calls for reform in Texas's mental health system, with advocates pushing for mandatory postpartum screening and increased funding for maternal care. In 2024, Texas passed the Tiana Holloway Act, requiring hospitals to screen new mothers for postpartum depression and psychosis, a bittersweet victory for activists who saw Tiana's death as a preventable tragedy. Yet change was slow, cultural stigma persisted, particularly in Black and Latino communities, where mental health remained a taboo, and economic barriers limited access to care for families like the Holloways, who relied on overstretched public services. The case exposed broader societal failures, the myth of the perfect mother, the pressure to suppress struggles, the systemic gaps that leave vulnerable women without support. Postpartum psychosis, though rare, is a medical emergency, with symptoms like delusions and paranoia escalating rapidly without intervention. Studies estimate 1 to 2 in 1,000 new mothers are affected, yet only 20% receive timely diagnosis due to inadequate screening and stigma. Tiana's story, while extreme, reflected a universal truth: motherhood, idealized as a time of joy, can be a crucible of isolation and despair, particularly for women of color navigating cultural expectations of strength. Her descent from devoted wife to tragic figure serves as a chilling warning of what can lurk beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect life, a reminder that love, when twisted by obsession and untreated illness, can become a force of unimaginable destruction. Jerome's life, forever altered, became a testament to loss. He returned to Mobile, living with his mother, who cooked his meals to spare him the pain of preparing food. He kept Tiana's ultrasound photo in his wallet, a reminder of the daughter he'd lost, and visited her grave monthly. Leaving tiny stuffed animals and whispering apologies for failing to protect her. The psychological scars, diagnosed as complex PTSD, required ongoing therapy, but healing felt elusive. I love Tiana, he told a counselor, but she's gone. The woman I married died that night, too. The community, once a place of solace, became a mirror of his grief, with neighbors offering condolences but avoiding his eyes, as if his pain was contagious. Tiana, confined to a Texas prison, was placed in a psychiatric unit, her condition stabilized with antipsychotics. She wrote letters to Jerome, later obtained by reporters, expressing remorse. I don't know why I did it. Something took over me. But the words offered little comfort to a man whose trust had been obliterated. Her case became a touchstone for debates on mental health and criminal responsibility, with advocates arguing for better intervention and critics insisting on harsher penalties for such acts. The horror of Nyla's death lingered in the public psyche, a grim reminder of the fragility of the human mind and the devastating consequences of systemic neglect. This tragedy lays bare the intersection of love, mental illness, and societal pressure, a cautionary tale of what happens when a woman's pain is ignored, her struggles dismissed, and her mind left to unravel. Tiana's act, born of a twisted desire to reclaim her husband's love, shattered. Nyla's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the mental health struggles we can't ignore. If this case moved you, please share this video to raise awareness about postpartum mental health. It could save a life. Subscribe and hit the bell for more true crime stories that dive deep into the human psyche. And let us know in the comments, what's a case you want us to cover next? Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.